Hello, and welcome back to the Nature Hotline series, where each month we take questions asked to us by viewers just like you and answer them to the best of our abilities using our knowledge and network. Without further ado, let's get into this month's questions.
I think I found an injured animal. What do I do?
How do I get involved in ecology?
What type of plant is this?
How do I identify poison ivy?
Which plants are native?
I found a snake. Is it venomous?
Question 1. Why don't plastics decompose? I see old plastic and it falls apart. Is that not the same thing? Well, that is a great question. First, we need to break down what decompose means. When we say things are decomposing or breaking down, we are referring to the organic compounds that make up the different things. Any natural compounds such as wood, tissue, bone, and anything of those nature are reduced by microorganisms into their basic elements, or components, that can be recycled back into the ecosystem. With plastic, however, these basic components are not being separated into usable portions. Almost all organisms are unable to break down the strong synthetic bonds of plastics. So while the overall structure of the plastic material may appear to be falling apart, it really is just breaking into smaller pieces. These are what we refer to as microplastics. And because they are so small and numerous, they're building up in ecosystems and being consumed by the animals that live there, which eventually means that they work their way up to us. Effectively, we're harming ourselves. So, is there any hope for plastic elimination from the environment on a complete and total level? Well, the short answer is no. But there is some promising new research for the true decomposition of certain types of mass-produced plastics. Several studies have come out over the last few years that look at the effectiveness of bacteria, fungi, and even worm decomposition on plastics. Some species of fungus will grow and break down certain types of plastics, and the same can be found for at least one species of bacteria. Even a few species of waxworm are now known to be able to eat and process small amounts of plastic within their gut. However, even with this relatively new research into true plastic decomposition, it is important to remember that the process is incredibly slow, and on the scale that we produce plastic globally, it is virtually ineffective at impacting anything. Therefore, it is critical that plastic use and production are reduced before it is too late. Then we can supplement whatever's left over with fungi, bacteria, and even worm removal. Okay, moving on to our second question, which is, what happened to fireflies? I used to see them as a kid, but I hardly see them anymore. Well, insects are one of the most abundant and diverse life forms on the planet. However, whether we're talking about arachnids, insects, crustaceans, or true bugs, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. They are in global decline. If you don't have a good understanding of how diverse insects actually are, then let's use fireflies as an example. Fireflies, lightning bugs, or whatever you might call them colloquially, are not just one singular species, but they are rather somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000 species globally. With global insect populations in decline due to habitat loss, increased chemical and pesticide usage, and of course the introduction of invasive species, it is likely that you're noticing less fireflies because there are likely fewer. Although we're beginning to notice the loss of vibrant species such as fireflies and butterflies, it's the ones we do not notice that should get our concern. Many cryptic and nocturnal species play vital roles in the ecosystems. With their loss, we could see the collapse of much more than just our beautiful summer nights. And now we're going to move on to our third and final question of the episode. Where do turtles go in the winter? Well, this is a perfect question as it starts to get cold enough for the water to freeze over. Although many freshwater turtles spend the majority of their lives in the water, they must come to the surface to breathe. Being ectothermic or cold-blooded, they can't stay out of the water during winter. In temperate climates, ponds, rivers, and streams may completely freeze over, so how do these turtles not drown? Well, some species have developed a very special way of breathing, and the technical scientific term for this method of obtaining oxygen is called cloacal respiration. For those of you who may not be incredibly well versed in the terminology, the common way to describe this method of breathing is butt breathing. Yes, I know how that sounds, but freshwater turtle species have actually developed highly capillary-rich internal structures inside of their rear ends that are able to diffuse oxygen from water as it is pumped over the surface. Basically, this means that turtles pump water in and out and are able to remove the oxygen that exists in the water and utilize it to breathe. However, this method is not as effective as actually breathing air, so turtles remain in a mostly inactive state during this process. Some turtles need to stay in moving water that is highly oxygenated and will do push-ups in order to effectively diffuse oxygen. However, some species of turtle, like the painted turtle and the snapping turtle, are so effective at this breathing method that they can stay buried in the mud of stagnant ponds and pools for months without needing to surface. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Nature Hotline. Be sure to comment or email us questions for future videos. We might not put every question in a video, but we do take the time to make sure that every question gets a response and an answer. So don't be afraid to ask. Remember, keep asking questions, keep learning, and stay smart. See ya!